All right, thank you. Thank you for all the wonderful questions and questioners. I just wanted to ask a question about a trip I took with Bamyan Sanim. I went to India for a couple of weeks and toured the sites. Wonderful experience. And there was one question I wish I would have asked over there, but uh, I knew folks over there. Not many have the chance to ask questions, so I didn't ask there. But my question, I wanted to ask about the history a little bit about the Buddha, because I know during the Buddha's lifetime, one of the things he did was kind of like what he's talking about right now, was the kind of being more of a helping out with peacekeeping amongst the different nations and preventing war. Um, and the one thing I'm confused about, and it's because I've kind of read from other sources too. Like I think like the Dalai Lama talks about the murder of the Shakya, or the massacre of the Shakya clan, uh, that happened during the Buddha's lifetime. And then I look up other sources, and it says no, the murder or um, the massacre of the Shakya clan, which is where he's from, happened after he passed away. And I was just hoping I could kind of figure out like the correct timeline. I feel it's kind of important to understand that, just so that I have it in my mind of like how he kept the kind of peace between the other countries, and why his teaching was so important. So thank you.
부처님께서는 주로 국가들 사이에 이 전쟁을 통해서 사람들을 고통스럽게 하는 것은 옳지 않다고 왕들에게 가르쳤습니다.
So when Buddha taught the kings, he taught that, waging war among the countries that cause suffering to the people is not right.
그러나 왕들이 다 부처님 말씀을 들은 건 아닙니다.
And of course, not all the kings listened to his teachings.
부처님 당시에도 계속 전쟁이 있었습니다.
Because there were constant wars being waged during his lifetime.
또 아들들이, 왕자들이, 그러니까 아버지를 몰아내고 왕이 된 케이스도 많이 있었습니다.
And there were a lot of cases in which the sons actually killed the fathers in order to become kings.
붓다에게 귀한 빈비사라 왕도, 마가다고의 빈비사라 왕도, 고살라국의 이 바세나디 왕도 다 아들한테 쫓겨났습니다.
Even the great kings of his time, Magadalayana and others, they are also driven away from their kingship by their sons.
그게 그 시대의 상황이었습니다.
And that was kind of the modus operandi of his times.
붓다도 전쟁을 막지 못하지 않았느냐 이렇게 볼 게 아니라 붓다가 있음으로 해서 전쟁이 조금 줄어들었다 이렇게 말할 수 있습니다.
This criticism against Buddha shouldn't be why didn't he stop all these wars from being waged. It should rather be, how many fewer wars were waged because of his teachings.
붓다의 말씀을 듣고 전쟁을 멈춘 그런 사례들도 몇 가지가 있기 때문입니다.
Because there are several instances in which we hear about people stopping wars due to his teachings.
또 붓다 이후에 200년 후에 아쇼카 왕이 나와서 인도 전체를 통일하면서 많은 사람을 죽였습니다.
And about 200 years after his passing, King Ashoka killed a lot of people in the course of his unification drive.
어떤 끝까지 저항하는 어떤 나라는 수십만 명을 죽이기도 했습니다.
One country that resisted his rule, he killed over hundreds of thousands of people.
물론 그때 아쇼카는 부디스트가 아니었습니다.
And when he did that, he wasn't a Buddhist yet.
그러나 그는 인도를 통일하고 나서 불교에 귀의했습니다.
So he became a Buddhist once he achieved his unification.
그리고는 살생을 금했습니다.
Then he outlawed killings.
또 길을 닦았습니다.
And then he also paved the roads.
또 우물을 팠습니다.
and he dug wells.
그리고 또 나무를 심어서 그늘을 만들었습니다.
And he planted a lot of trees to provide shade for the people.
인도의 기후 환경에서는 길을 닦고 길가에 우물을 파고 쉴 수 있는 그늘을 만들기 위해서 나무를 심었다는 것은 요즘 말하면 굉장한 복지 정책입니다.
So for his times in the subcontinent of India, to have paved roads, dug wells on the sides of the roads, and planted trees to create little rest areas, he really engaged in a larger public infrastructure project.
뭐 젊었을 때는 야망에 사로잡혀서 많은 살생을 했지만은 나중에 붓다의 귀한 이후, 불법에 귀한 이후로는 이렇게 좋은 사람으로 바뀌었습니다.
So when he was young and ambitious, he killed a lot of people for the price of his ambition. But after he converted to Buddha's teaching, he became a good king.
석가족을 멸망시킨 것은 고살라국의 새로운 국왕이었습니다.
So the king that destroyed the Shaka tribes was the new king in the kingdom of Kosala.
그러니까 부처님의 법을 따르던 그 바사나디 왕을 아버지를 몰아내고 새로 왕이 된 젊은 왕이 이 석가족에 대해서 원한이 있어서 석가족을 공격했습니다.
So basically, the new king had something against the Shaka tribe. He was a king who actually drove away the father who had followed the Buddha's teaching. And the new king, in order to avenge his sense of wrongdoing or justice, destroyed the Shaka tribe.
부처님은 두 번이나 혼자의 몸으로 길가에 명상을 하면서 그분을 돌려보냈습니다.
So on his way to conquer the Shaka tribe, Buddha actually placed himself on the road and managed to turn the conquest away 2 times.
당시 인도 문화는 이 전쟁을 하러 갈 때 수행자가 길을 막으면 멈추는 것이 예의였나 봅니다.
Because at that time, the culture of the times, it seems like that on your way to conquest, the culture was that if you encounter a spiritual practitioner, it was courtesy to turn away.
그러나 그는 가슴에 쌓인 원한이 너무 컸기 때문에 세 번째는 누군가가 길을 막아도 수행자가 길을 막아도 그는 밟고 지나가겠다 이렇게 결심하고 공격하러 갔습니다.
But his sense of wrongdoing and revenge against the Shaka were so great that he decided that he would, drive across anybody trying to block his way, even a spiritual practitioner, the 3rd time.
부다는 그를 더 이상 설득할 수 없다고 했기 때문에 그만두게 됐습니다.
So Buddha, realizing he could no longer convince him not to invade, relented.
뭐 부다가 어떻게 하겠어요? 부다가 군대를 가지고 있지도 않고 또 폭력적으로 대응을 할 수도 없지 않습니까?
I mean, what would Buddha be able to do? He doesn't have his own army, and there's no violence he's going to wage against him.
네, 그래서 석가족은 대다수 살상을 했습니다.
So most of the Shaka tribe were destroyed.
거기에 일부 살아남아 도망을 간 사람들이 지금 인도에 남아 있습니다.
And the people who ran away, who survived by running away, their descendants are still in India.
그들 중에 일부가 그 상카사 주위에 많이 살고 있습니다.
And a lot of them are living around the Shankasha area.
오늘 우리가 이것의 교훈은 우리가 평화를 지키기 위해서 최선의 노력을 하지만은 그렇다고 전쟁을 다 멈추게 할 수는 없습니다.
I think the lesson we take away from this is that, we try our best to preserve peace, but that does not mean that we can stop all wars.
전쟁이 나면 또 난민을 우리는 보호해야 되고 전쟁을 멈추도록 또 노력을 해야 합니다.
But once war starts, we have to do everything to protect the refugees and the victims of the war and try everything to stop the war as soon as possible.
또 전쟁이 끝나면 복구를 해야 되고요.
And once the war is over, then we have to rehabilitate the area.
우리는 주어진 조건에서 최선을 다하는 것입니다.
So basically, do the best you can under the circumstances that's given.
우리가 이 세상 일을 다 할 수는 없기 때문입니다.
because we cannot do everything in this world.
그러나 우리가 할 수 있는 만큼은 최선을 다해서 해야 합니다.
But do the best that you can